Okay, hey, let's jump in. I always like to celebrate, but let's get into God's word here. I want everybody to kind of do something real quick as we get going here. I want you to think of the name of somebody that you believe loves you. Okay, now I didn't say, oh, pick somebody that you love. No. Find somebody, look back, go through the Rolodex in your life and your whole realm of existence. Find somebody that you think loves you, okay? It might be a neighbor, it might be your spouse, your child, your mother, father, I don't know, but just everybody get a name of a person that you believe loves you, okay? Everybody got it? Okay, here we go. On the count of three, just say that person's first name out loud. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, wait, one more time. 1, 2, 3, go. Jesus. I was just seeing if Jennifer said my name. Okay. Okay, wait, real quick. Let me put some people on the spot here, because that's what I love to do. That's what I love to do. Joe, who'd you say? Just Iggy. No, wait, why Iggy? Is it because of the flowing, long blonde hair? No, why'd you choose Iggy? Why'd you choose Iggy? Never giving up on you. Yeah, kind of like Jesus, never giving up on us. Yeah, always there. Right, okay, okay. MJ, I'm picking on you. MJ, who'd you say?
I said Naomi.
Naomi. Oh, okay. And why Naomi? Why do you think Naomi loves you? She's giving a thumbs up back there, by the way. Okay, so that's good. Jesus works through her. Wait. Don't be nebulous. Like, how does Jesus work through her to bless you?
She writes me.
She writes you. Okay, like little. Oh, writes you, corrects you. Okay, so she does something. Okay, all right, cool. Here we go. Carlos, let me talk to you, man, all the way over. Carlos, if you don't mind, who did you say? Yeah, who do you think loves you?
I said my brother, Markel.
Markel. Why Markel in the back?
I haven't seen him in a while. He's still part of the program. He came over here and shook my hand.
Yeah, okay, just kind of welcoming and encouraging you. Yeah, brotherly love. Oh, yeah, very cool. Just supporting you, there, present, the whole thing, right? Tom, let me put you on. You're right here. You got to teach you to sit on the front row. Tom, who do you think loves you? Okay, all right. Okay, so why do you think Kamina loves you? What evidence? Supporting you. Yeah, pitching in, and all these kids, these yahoos right here. Yeah. Okay, cool. So here, thanks, guys. So here's this interesting. I bet you, I asked 3 or 4 people, right? And you all said basically the same thing. You kind of put everything in one column for me. And I'll bet you that if I were to go around this room and ask you, okay, Jamie, who did you say? Elaine, who did you say? No, Carl, why? And Eileen, why? I'll bet every single one of you will do what these 4 people did. You will say, because she does this, because he did that, because she's always, he's always, it's not like, Tom says, well, because Jimena says she loves me. I mean, we call that lip service, right? If I'm only just there, I say, baby, I love you, but I never do anything, or Iggy, I love you, I'm never there to help, I'm never there to support. He's going to start calling into question. He's going to start doubting that love, right? So here's what we're going to talk about tonight. John says this is what love looks like. He's going to define love for us. And then he says this is kind of what Shelley said during our feedback time. We can't just have empathy. We can't just feel love for somebody. That love must drive us to do something. So every single one of these people that I called on, they pointed to what somebody has done for them. They pointed to efforts. They pointed to actions. They pointed to deeds. And this is how I'm going to say it tonight. Love indeed is love indeed. Now, I ran that sermon title by Jennifer, and I asked her how cheesy it was, and she says, it's kind of cheesy. There's a little cheese in there, okay? But I'm going to stick with it, okay? Because love indeed is really love indeed. That's what we know, right? So John, this is what he tells us here in 1 John chapter 3, verses 16, 17, and 18. Put them on the screen, but here's where we're going to jump in. This is what God's word says. By this, we know love, that he laid down his life for us, and so we ought to also lay down our lives for the brothers. But if anyone has the world's goods and sees his brother in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him? Little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth. Eileen made this point, and I think MJ, you helped her out here on this, was that for the first 2.5 chapters or so of 1 John, it's all about God is light, walk in the light, God is light. We're making the transition here at past the halfway point here, right? Now it's no longer God is light. He's going to literally tell us here in chapter 4 next week that God is love. So just like God is light, we're walking in the light. God is love. Love one another. And here's why. Because let's just put it this way. Jesus' sacrifice, according to 1 John chapter 16, 1 John chapter 3, verse 16, Jesus' sacrifice defines love. Like if you want to know what love is, what love looks like, you have to look at Jesus hanging on a cross. John says that he laid down his life for us, and by this, we know what love is. Now in 1984, and I want to apologize in advance for what you're about to experience. In 1984, Foreigner sang a song, and it went like this. I want to know what love is. It's Jesus hanging on the cross. But I want you to show me. Yeah. Do not hold that against me. Do not. Matt knew that was coming. He could have loved you enough to hit the mute button, okay? And he wanted all of you to suffer with him. But this is it. John says, listen, you want to know what love is? Look to Jesus hanging on the cross, buried in a borrowed tomb, rising from the dead, just as he said he would. So if you want to know what love is, you got to know Jesus. There is no like love independent or apart from Jesus. You cannot know love. You cannot experience true, eternal, life-defining love unless you have Jesus. How do I know that? Well, number one, the Bible says so. And number two, I'll just put it like this. You don't have a story in all of the world like this story right here. I'll prove it to you. Watch this. I want you to think of your favorite story. Think of your favorite book, your favorite movie, right? I don't know. Pick whatever it is, right? Maybe it's something, a holiday. Maybe it's something classic. Maybe it's something that's stirring or gripping or just really emotional. Maybe like the Die Hard series starring Bruce Willis, right? I want you to think about your favorite movie, right? Here's I don't know what your favorite movie is, what your favorite story is, but I know how it ends. The bad guy dies, okay? And there's really a few reasons why the bad guy dies. The bad guy dies because, well, he's the bad guy, okay? But maybe some of y'all pick some of those movies where the good guy dies. Maybe the good guy dies like taking out the bad guy. Okay, like that's a little sad, but I get it. Sometimes that happens, okay. All right, but then sometimes the bad guy lives and the good guy dies because the bad guy overcame him. And I'm going, okay, bro, what kind of movies are you watching? And then there's like sometimes the good guy dies because he's trying to save the girl. So you must be married, okay? I understand that one as well. Those are the options. You don't have this option that the good guy dies for the bad guy. It's not there, is it? Scan all of Hollywood. Scan all of literature. It doesn't exist. Nobody's written that story. Nobody's gone to that movie. Nobody wants to hear that story because we don't like the good guy dying for the bad guy until we realize that we're the bad guy. Turns a little bit, doesn't it? He's thinking, well, hold on a second, Pastor David. I don't think I'm a very bad person. I don't think I'm a bad guy. Okay, I hope you're sitting down. Help me out here, Matt. Let's look at what the Word of God says about us. Let's just go back to Genesis chapter 6. Let's just go all the way across God's Word in one slide here. Here we go. Ready? The Bible says that we are wicked and evil in Genesis chapter 6. The Bible calls us sinners in Mark chapter 2. We are called unrighteous in Romans 1, ungodly, and check this, enemies of God in Romans chapter 5. So if you really want a dose of reality, turn in your Bibles to the book of Romans, okay? It will get you going, all right? And then the same guy who wrote Romans 1 and 5 is also the Apostle Paul who wrote Ephesians chapter 2. This is what he says. He says, we are right where we deserve to be, children of wrath. Now, again, this is not my words. This is what the Word of God says. And so now I'm going, man, this is really good news that the good guy gave his life for the bad guy. You see, you're not going to find in here anywhere where it says that Jesus Christ died for the nice guy. Jesus Christ died for the good guy. Jesus Christ died for the kind guy. Jesus Christ died for the holy guy. No. Jesus died for sinners. And the Apostle Paul says, and I feel this way sometimes to myself, I'm the chief of sinners. Okay? And hallelujah, Jesus died for me. And in doing so, his sacrifice, he defined love. And then, as John moves on, he says this, because we are his disciples, we should be doing what our master does. So this is how I'll say it. We must follow Jesus' example. He gave his life for those he loves, so we must follow in Jesus' example. We must do what he did. Now, if you're sitting here thinking, so wait a second, Pastor David, does that mean I got to go find somebody on death row and give my life for them? That's a fair question. That's a fair question, right? No, and the answer is no for a couple of reasons, all right? Number one, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the book of 1 John, the letter that John wrote, it wasn't for the world. It wasn't for those outside the church. John's writing to his brothers and his sisters. If you don't believe it, read 1 John chapter 5, verse 13. I know that's skipping ahead, but do your homework. He's writing to people who believe in Jesus. He's writing to his spiritual family, even if he has never met them. So John is only talking about his brothers in Christ, his sisters in Christ, his spiritual family, his spiritual household, okay, right? So that kind of limits it down, like, okay, now there is still a price to be paid on behalf of others. Again, going back to what Shelley says, it's not about empathy. Oh, Eileen, I feel bad for you. I'll pray for you. See you. No. Eileen, how can I help? How can I jump in? How can I do some heavy lifting for you, right? Because that's what Jesus did. So that's the first reason, is because John's writing just to us, those of us who know Jesus to be the Lord. But number two, it's almost like it's not really his point. John's not really talking about Tom laying down his life for Greg. It could be. But really what he's trying to do is give us a little bit of perspective and say, well, MJ, Jesus did die on the cross for you, so I don't know, maybe it's not a stretch for you to help Brian change his flat tire. You know, it's not like the Word of God's trying to shame MJ into love, but what John is doing is just reminding MJ's heart and me, like, this price has been paid for you. How about ponying up this much price for your sister or for your brother? I think that's just the perspective there, right? And then John goes on to say, how can any of us who have the world's goods, ready? The 401k, the functioning vehicle, a roof over our heads, and let's be honest, a pretty nice roof, okay? All right, and then see a brother in need, somebody who does not have food. No, we're beyond the 2-year-old jet ski. This person doesn't have food. This person doesn't have their next meal or clean water. How can we, John says, close our heart to him? I find it interesting that John wrote close our, that's not just saying, oh no. The Bible says that we close our hearts. That's pretty strong language. It's not, my ears aren't listening because my heart's not listening. You can't get to my ears because you can't get to my heart. So what John's saying here is he's giving a little perspective. And he says, because Jesus has paid this price, we should be willing to pay this price. Now, I will tell you this. I'm not going to back down from this. The black ink on the white paper says this, that Jesus gave his life, and we should follow his example. We should do for the brothers what he has done for us. You probably never heard of a man named Maximilian Kolbe. He was a Catholic priest back in the pre-World War II days. He was a Polish Catholic priest, and when the Nazis stormed in September of 1939, it wasn't long until he was rounded up and thrown into a very tough place to be, a place that the history books now call Auschwitz. It was a concentration camp, a death camp, where thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of Jews and other ethnicities and minorities were killed because of their ethnicity or their race. So Maximilian Kolbe, he's a priest there, and he, they know he's a priest. They know what his life is really about, and so he's serving food to his other prisoners. He's pulling his own load. He's running the hoe. He's running the shovel. He's digging the ditches. He's using the wheelbarrow. He's doing all that stuff, but he's also sharing his medicine with the person who needs it worse. He's sharing and leading communion for these group. He's teaching God's word. He's praying for them. He's holding Bible studies. He's going above and beyond what all the other prisoners are facing in this camp, this Auschwitz death camp. And so the guards that were particularly cruel and evil towards him wanted to break him because they recognized he was a man of faith. And he cared for all these other people. He's preaching the gospel to these people in this camp facing death. He was beaten ruthlessly, mercilessly, over and over again. In fact, he was beaten so bad one time they threw him under a bush thinking he was dead. And he came back. He was sick, and he would give his food to the other people in the sick bay. He would pray with them. He would come over and hold their hand as they were dying. And the guards, Commandant Karl Fritsch, wanted his soldiers to break this man. And while Father Kolbe is doing his thing, trying to be a light in a very dark place for the gospel of Jesus Christ, somebody did something that would change Father Kolbe's life. Somebody at Auschwitz escaped. That's good news for that person. But at Auschwitz, Commandant Karl Fritsch says, if one escapes, 10 dies in his place. So everybody from Block 14 was lined up in the commons yard. He comes out and he just starts walking through 1, 2, 3, and he picks out 10 men who are condemned to die. Everyone else is dismissed. The 10th one, his name was, he was a sergeant in the Polish army, Francis Gianowicz. Sergeant Francis Gianowicz begins to weep and wail out loud. And he's not weeping and wailing because he's about to die. He's weeping and wailing because of his children and his wife. What will happen to my wife? He's screaming, what's going to happen to my children? He hasn't seen his wife or his children in weeks, maybe months, and he's concerned about them. What will be with them, or who will defend them? Who will take care of them after the war, if this war is ever going to come to an end? And so Father Max Kolbe does something that, well, this is why we know him. He took off his cap, he stepped up to Commandant Karl Fritsch, and he says, I'm a priest. My Jesus says to lay down my life for my brothers, if that's what's required. I would like to die in that man's place. Those witnesses standing there said that it was a little bit of a jaw drop. Who are you? I'm Father Maximus Kolbe. I'd like to die in his place. And after the initial shock wore off, the commandant issued one word with a wave: away. So they took the priest and the other 9 men, and they took them down beneath Block 11 into a dungeon, where over the course of about another 5 weeks, these 10 men would face execution by starvation. 4.5 weeks later, there's only 3 of them left alive. Father Kolbe has prayed with them. He has held them. He has encouraged them. By recitation, he's given them the Word of God. And finally, the doors open. They need it to execute more people, so they just give them an injection of carbolic acid and kill them. In a place in 1944, prisoner for 5 years, a place so marked by death. It was not easy, it was not difficult to draw attention to the love of Jesus by one man giving his life for another man. That is what Jesus has done. He gave his life and defined love. And just so we're clear, that is what God's word calls us to on behalf of those in the kingdom of God, if required. I didn't make that up. Don't come at me. Don't send me the email. Take it up with the Holy Spirit because that's what it says right here. So Jesus has defined love. We are to follow his example. And so finally, I'll just say this. That means that our love has to be in words, truth, and in actions. You see, we have to love indeed because love indeed is love indeed. We can't just say that we love somebody. We have to actually prove it. John says that anything less than this is just lip service. Here in verse 18, he says, little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth. John is not the only apostle who says this. James, the younger brother of Jesus himself, says this in James chapter 2, verse 14 and 17, a very famous passage. He says, what good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Daniel, you were talking about this a few moments ago. Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, be warm and filled, without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. Now, that's James. I read to you John. We could talk about Paul, but y'all ain't got that long tonight, okay? I mean, all of these apostles are stepping in line going, yeah, love can't just be with words. Love has to be with actions. I'm asking you, where does John, where does James, where does Paul, we could throw Peter in, where do these guys get this idea? I'll tell you where. I'll tell you from whom. Jesus. No. Think back across Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. When Jesus met a hungry person, he loved him how much? Enough to give food, sometimes miraculously. If Jesus met a sick person, he loved him how much? Enough to heal him. If Jesus met a blind person, he loved him how much? Enough to restore his faith. If Jesus met a dead person, he loved him enough to raise him back from the dead. Jesus did not just love in his words, he loved in his actions as well. And that's what we're called to do. All right, let's have a little church business meeting real quick, okay? Let's have a little church business meeting. Here we go, ready? So he's like, well, I'm not a church member. Okay, you sit tight, hang tight. We do two things at the Root Church. Maybe, I don't know if I'm the only one who says this. Maybe y'all say this too. Maybe I'm just the only one who says it. But we do two things at the Root Church. We teach God's word clearly. Okay. All right, so these people, okay. And we serve our community weekly. Yeah, we do two things. Everything falls under those two columns, under those two categories. We teach God's word clearly. We serve our community weekly. This is interesting. Little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth. There's this comical divide in the church today. I mean, I say comical. It's actually heartbreaking, but when I look at them, I go, really? Really? So there's one group, one denomination, one contingency, one body of the global kingdom in Africa, Europe, South America, Canada, everywhere, LA, the Church of Jesus Christ, they said, now listen, our biggest thing, what we're really supposed to do is we're supposed to feed hungry people. Like, don't worry about the preaching thing. Like, Jesus preached enough, but like, if Greg's hungry, we need to feed Greg. That's what really the church is called to do. We really just need to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for Greg. And Greg's a big guy. He can eat a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That's what we need to do, okay? That's what the Church of Jesus Christ need to do. Peanut butter and jelly ministry. And that's part of the church goes, that's what we're supposed to do. But then over here, I could name names, I won't. But there's another group of the church that says, no. We ain't got time for peanut butter and jelly. We preach the word of God. We teach truth. Let's get in here to some doctrine. Let's talk theology. Let's make sure that Greg understands the difference between the incarnation and transubstantiation. Let's talk to him about the hypostatic union of Jesus Christ's first coming. And let's make sure he understands all this stuff and has a degree in theology and all this stuff. And I'm going, okay, that's important. That's important. I just got a question. Why can't we do, hold on, ready? Why can't we do both? Y'all are laughing, but that rhetorical question would anger some people in today's church. Like, come on. Is it really hard to think? Let's use Eileen, for example. Eileen sees a person at Burger King. and he's hungry. Is it that much of a stretch to think that Eileen could not only buy a cheeseburger, and watch this, while he or she is sitting down to eat it and chewing with his mouth full, Eileen, the dear introvert that she is, the quiet, shy, reserved individual that she is, might produce the fortitude to talk about the love of Jesus. It's a captive audience. He or she's not going anywhere. I'm not saying we hand out $20 to everybody at street corner. I'm not saying that. But I'm going to tell you, what a blessing it has been. I can't tell you the number of times when somebody says, hey man, can I have a few bucks? I'm hungry. Well, no, I tell you what, I'll do you one better. Let's just go in here. I'll buy you whatever you want on one condition. I get to sit down and talk to you. I have never, not ever once, been told no. Here's what that means. As we kind of wrap up tonight, here's what I think it means that we follow Jesus' definition of love, that he's paid this price, we'll be willing to pay this price. If we're going to love in word, truth, and in deed, action, here's what it means. Number one, let's get good at articulating the gospel. I'm not asking you to memorize Leviticus. I'm not asking you to be able to quote back the Psalms. I'm not asking you to figure out the difference between the synoptic gospels and the gospel. Just stop. I'm not saying you got to give up your job, move to some other city and go to seminary and then get ordained. Or I'm not even saying you got to be a church leader. I'm saying if you're sitting here tonight, can you tell me, pick out 2 or 3 verses and show me black ink on the white paper that Jesus Christ loves me? Can you do that, church? Because if you can't do that, we're starting there. We are supposed to love not just in word, but in deed and in truth. Well, guess what? Truth has a sound vibration that goes with it. It comes out of our mouth. We got to be able to tell the truth. So number one, we have to be willing to share the truth. But number two, we also, church, must be willing to show our love in action. So what does that mean? Well, like we do try to say we want to serve our community weekly, whether it might be helping out some of Iggy's guys or carrying food here or giving away lemonade or doing a trunk or treat next Sunday, not tomorrow, but next Sunday. Fine, awesome, great, but you ain't got to wait on the root church. You got a neighbor? Bake some cookies. I wish I was Anna's neighbor. I wish I was Anna's neighbor. Have you seen what she brought in the back? Oh my goodness. I wish. Like, y'all just get with this woman, okay? Pay her to bake stuff. You will be promoted to like king and queen of your neighborhood HOA, okay? But like bake cookies. Just go leave a little kind note in their mailbox. I'm praying for you. Come on, guys. You got a widow in your neighborhood? Man, I don't know, grab a rake and rake some leaves for her. Wash her car. Just go and sit with her and have a cup of coffee. Take her out to dinner with you and your husband. This is not rocket science, guys. Just you see something, you handle it, because this is what I'm so glad of. This is what I'm so proud of. I'm glad that Jesus taught me the truth. I am. I'm glad he taught me the truth. He preached to me. He taught. He left a sermon or two. He always shared the truth. But this is what he also saw. He saw me on a collision course with hell, and he jumped in the way. He did something. He saw me where I was headed, and he got involved and changed my life and changed my eternity. Church, this is what love looks like. Somebody go tell your neighbor, somebody go tell the 1984 band Foreigner, let's show the world what love is, because Jesus has shown us what love is.